Right, I think we're all set up. So, hello everybody. I believe this is the 29th episode of the live stream so far. So, quite a ways into it now. Today we're just going to kind of start off as we normally do. So we're just going to go through the Jira page and reprioritize things a little bit. One thing I was doing yesterday was making sure that we were basically implementing a safety feature to stop it from crashing, so that was a nice little wrap up of a few features that I was working on previously. So we're no longer working on these currently, and one thing I wanted to do was reduce the amount of issues we can have in each tab at any given time, because it seems like there's too many. I think I want it to be a bit more focused, just so that it's kind of easier to manage. So obviously changing it to this means rejigging a lot of stuff. So we'll have to wait until these kind of filter out over time. System that I'm moving on to next is the Prefab system, so I'm going to be taking a look at preparing some of those at the moment. I might move some of these back into approved, just because our priorities have kind of changed a little bit since the 3-week break that we took. So the whole point of this is basically, when using Kanban, the point is supposed to be to drag tasks from left to right. Basically, you're supposed to kind of pull them through the chain, rather than pushing as many through as possible. And this kind of keeps you quite focused. It means that you're only really dealing with the mental overhead of dealing with a few tasks at a time. And that's why I'm reducing this number, because I want our focus to be really kind of narrowed in on a couple of things at any given point. And that more closely matches the workflow that we've actually been employing up to this point. So what I'm doing now is just kind of re-looking through this and just reprioritizing in my head what actually needs doing. This I'll work on. I just got to do the usual admin. I estimate this will probably take 2 hours, if that, to get all the controls working and everything. In fact, just one, because it's using existing stuff. Priority is quite high. I'm just trying to think of what issues there are currently that can add. What's the name of it? I can't remember. For some reason it's not showing up. I'm looking for that, it's not working for some reason. Oh well. I'll live without it, it's not essential. Oh sorry, that's because I was using the wrong thing. That makes sense. So we're just adding a couple of extra issues onto here. There isn't really too much work we have to do for this actually. This is a relatively simple part of the prefab editor. I think the only keys that will need to be unique to this are the whether or not we're saving and loading something. Pretty sure that's it. Let me just double check I've done all the rest of the admin for this properly. Due date, so we want to get this done by the end of today really, but let's say tomorrow just in case we have any issues. I doubt it, but you never know. Right, okay, I think everything's done on that front, so now we'll move it straight over to the In Progress tab. So we kind of want to work on it pretty much straight away. Where are we? There we go. Yeah, like I say, we need to work on kind of refining down these now that I've changed these max column limits. I will do more of that this evening, I think, off stream, just so I'm not boring you guys. I might do some later if this gets done. Anyway, let's hop into it. Let's open up the editor. Not actually preloaded Visual Studio yet. Let's just double check it's compiled as well. Right, here we go. So the first thing we need to do is edit our kind of state variable that we have for what mode we're in, because I know that currently I think we're using a Boolean toggle, whereas what we actually want to do, of course, is use an integer to determine what it is that we're currently doing. So the first place I'll check that is in the header file, because that's where we define the variable itself. And oh, there we go. I thought it had crashed, but no, we're all good. Now this is the variable that we're actually wanting to rework, basically. I'll rename this to editor mode. I will save that, set it to 0 initially, and we'll work from the ranges of 0 to 2. So this is something that we'll need to rework, obviously. So I think the best way to do this is kind of work through. There's probably code that I've used before. So yeah, we'll just use something like that, I think. There we go, so it's actually a fairly simple bit of code, but we also need to rename these function definitions so it makes a bit more sense. There we go, and then we can just go through and kind of edit wherever any errors come up, basically, now that we've changed these definitions. So this one instead will change to so yeah, this is just like our old kind of variable where we're saying what the editor mode is. So before it was whether or not we're in prop mode, this being true. But now, of course, this is just the second state in our editor states. First being voxel mode, which is what's hit if this case is true. What I'm thinking I could do actually, how have kind of a similar setup for the prefab system where we have a left and a right click, so left being placing and right kind of being capturing. I think that's a fairly intuitive system, and then it makes use of both keys. I can't really think of a situation in which we'd want to, you know, get rid of either. But you can't really get rid of a prefab as a whole because we want it to be individually editable. It's not really practical to save each thing in the editor as like a separate state, especially since we can edit them. Actually, yeah, I'll add that in. Eventually we're going to need a different system for saving prefabs. For now I want to kind of get it working with just one prefab type. So we'll build all of the code for that, and then we'll kind of come up with a way to have multiple saves and that kind of thing. And that code that I do for having multiple saves will actually be helpful when it comes to saving multiple world states as well. So that will kind of feed into other areas of the code as of when that's built. This of course means changing the, where is it, the inputs in the project settings. Oh, of course, yeah, we've not added in these function definitions yet. So we'll kind of look at duplicating some of the older code in regards to how placement works. So we kind of need a new class as well. So it will be the Prefab controller. We've got all of these other controllers. All it'll do really is kind of interface with the terrain and what do you call it? Terrain and props. That's what I'm looking for. I'm quite tired today, so sorry if I'm a bit slow. But I'm thinking if it's maybe best if we control it from all within the editor. I mean, probably not, just in terms of refactorability and everything. Well, anyway, this has just been done, so we'll just compile this quickly and test it. Okay, that was a bit weird, so it didn't allow me to place stuff initially, so let me just check that. Oh, it did that time. Don't know why it wasn't working properly. I'm kind of curious actually if I could build like a house. I know I don't really have the materials for it, but no, let me see. This is a massive tangent, by the way. Probably shouldn't be doing this. But look, can't remember how it is I'm handling materials. Or if I'm handling materials at all, actually, I'm not sure. I think I built in the functionality for handling materials, but I can't remember. No, I don't actually have anything for changing the material anyway. Which I didn't realise. one thing I'm just doing now, so to explain what I'm thinking at the moment, is I'm trying to work out if it's appropriate to make an entirely new class for what it is I'm trying to do. And the reason it might not be is because there might be some kind of linking issues with my includes. So I'm trying to work out if there's any like dependencies that I need to be aware of, basically, which are more than likely. Because we'll need to include it in here. Which would have to include because it would have to include references for terrain controller and props. So maybe I do have to interface with it through the editor. I think I do. So yeah, we're not making another class, basically. It's the easiest way to do it. I know it's not the nicest thing in the world having it all within here, but we'll just have to live with that. Also means we can use all of the variables that we've got in here up to this point. So like the selection sizes, for example, are something that are quite useful. So the thing that we were using in the voxel system to define the sizes of your brush placements, we can use those to determine how big you want the capture radius to be, which is extremely helpful. I'm going to rename this to Capture Prefab. So basically we have a for loop, nested for loop for each of the blocks within our zone. We obviously want this based on the cursor location as well. I think it's voxel placement position that we need, but I just want to double check that. Yeah, it's voxel placement position. So this is essentially the logic we want. I just need to check what library I've used for rounding. Oh, just lowercase round, okay. Oh, actually, I also want to check the way I've handled this in voxel placement, just so that the behaviours are the same. So for some reason this is... I'm trying to work out why I've done it this way. Oh, that's because it's setting them in a max boundary, it's not a center point, that makes sense. Since it seems to be weighted towards the negative end, I'll take away a round, so that'll kind of default to the higher value of the two. So basically we of course want the same thing. This will kind of set the point that we're looking at and center it around the camera. And then also we want to only allow this to happen if it's inside of the map boundaries. Although I'm not sure if I've done that in the prop system. I think I have done that in the prop and voxel system, so I don't actually need to do that safety check, which is nice. But for testing's sake, I guess I could spawn in some test variables or something like that. So let's do voxels dot what's the code that I've used for it? Change voxel plane. I guess I could just use change voxel, can't I? Change voxel single, and then the various variables that go into that. So we need the X, Y, Z. We also need the material that we're using. We'll just default it to 1 because that's the grass material that we have. I think 0 is the default cube. We just see what it's defaulted to in here. This seems to be 0. I don't think we have anything in particular there. Where is material? I can't seem to find it. Unless I'm blind. Maybe I've just not set it up yet, to be fair, so I've not done any of the material work. One too many zeros. There we go. This will be for the capturing, so I want to see if this works. So this will just show me the highlighting area basically. I think there's one of the, yeah, I didn't rename this. There we go. Right, so we know voxel mode's active. Prop mode. Well, that did something, not sure what. Oh, that's really slow. Changing them in completely the wrong place as well. Right, what have I done? Let's have a look. That should be fine. Not sure why it isn't working. It's probably just something simple, I just need to check it. So, just to actually make sure we're doing this properly, we're incrementing the X, Y, Z. All of those seem correct. And the position for the X, Y, and Z that we're actually selecting at any given point is so of course we're not actually taking away the X, the Y and the Z, so it's just doing it in a single place at the moment. So we're basically just spamming the same point repeatedly. Actually that should be class. There we go. What is it doing? Because of the smoothing system? It might be. I'm thinking I need to optimize that massively at some point. I think that's the system that causes the main issues far. That should be done now. Why is it taking so long? Well, this isn't good. I suppose it has to go through row by row, but even so, it could be faster than this. Now it's lagging out for some reason. Turns out placing lots of individual brushes causes a lot of problems for some reason. I wonder if it causes the same problem if I use a turn smoothing off. I remember what key it was I used for it. I think that's it. That's interesting. Spawning stuff in individually really lags it out, even if no smoothing is taking place. I mean, it's working now, which is good, but we'll definitely have to investigate that. I'm pretty sure that a lot of the voxel system will require some of a rewrite, because it works, but it's obviously not very fast. Like, once that's spawned in, that should be it. It shouldn't do anything else. But at least I know it works anyway. Let's just decrease the placement volume and see if it does the same thing. Yeah, so I know the selection volume is correct. Guess I should have like a highlighting volume, so you can see how large the thing is that you're spawning in. So I'll make a new function called, find where the old one is. I'll call it highlight. What makes the most sense? Highlight placement volume. Okay. Let's call it every frame as well. Just trying to think of the best way to go about it, because the implementation actually changes depending on whether or not the width is odd or even, which is why I'm taking so long to think about this. So I might want to use a min and max range, or some kind of quaternion. I'll see how it's done in spawning props. So it'll require some kind of manipulation of this, basically. So it'll be this kind of same thing, but slightly different. So I've copied that. So now the placement volume itself, we'll obviously have to get the draw debug box code going as well. But we'll modify it slightly. So we'll be using the minimax ranges to determine the sizes, and then we'll choose a center point. Oh no, we've already got those actually. We just need to choose the center point. Right, so this will just be a matter of selecting the voxel. I need the autocomplete to happen. The voxel placement pos minus brush diameter divided by 2. And then this will be a matter of basically doing the same thing but adding instead. There we go, so I think that's pretty much it. And then the center point is just the max minus the min. No, sorry, the what was it? The but it's halfway between the two, isn't it? So alright, just adding them together divided by 2. Of course it is. I've completely forgotten what I'm doing. There we go. So this should, all being well, give me a highlight box. Won't keep my hopes too high. Especially since I'm using the wrong variable. Just realised this needs to be world placement. Simply because this is in world space, we don't want it in voxel space. Voxel space is like how best to describe it? Voxel space is divided by like 100 or something. It's just the actual voxel number rather than the world space that it occupies. And that also means we have to change this to be the There we go. I think that's everything. But I guess we'll find out. And then if not, we'll have to just check it, make sure everything's happening. I think it is. Display. So that's very tiny. Oh, I'm not doing the same thing down here. Need to times it by these values. What I mean about it being tiny. This is in the right place though, eh? I think it might be offset slightly though, so I may need to account for that. I don't think this is entirely right. Might be. I need to check it though. Let's go to cube mode. Is that extending one extra beyond what it should? Not quite, I think so. About vertical. We turn smoothing off. That's rounding down when it should be rounding up. Not entirely sure it's this half of the equation and not the other half, so I'll just do this quick just to check it and then obviously change it if there's a mismatch there. I don't want to see what's going on here, just try and get a feel for it. So both the X and the Y are offset too much. So undo that change, is it just one of them? Try including the placement pods in that floor as well. Don't know why that would matter too much, but might as well give it a go. Oh yeah, that might not even be the problem at all. It would be because I'm not accounting for the adding of half of the voxel width that I need to do. So if it does it vertically as well. Same problem. I'm going to break this equation into two parts so that it rounds the initial part to an int. Let's try this instead. I think this is actually the proper equation, so we weren't rounding it properly before. Try that now. It might need that the half block offset applied, but at least it should be accurate now. Oh no, it isn't drawing it. Yeah, I think because we're combining so many different conversions, it's probably thrown the whole thing off. Like this. Right, that's looking more like it. Still has the same issue as before by the looks of it. At least it should be a bit easier to fix and diagnose now though. I think I've just discovered a bug. Because the vertical height quite clearly doesn't line up. Oh, it does there. Strange. Right, so that should fix one issue, but now I just need to fix the issue of rounding. That shouldn't flatten. Is that compiled properly? Let's try again. Test that before I commit it to all the other axes. Is it flattening to 0? I didn't. There's probably something obvious that I'm doing wrong here. I know what it is. Straight away. Basically rounding out the odd numbers. Now I can actually test it based on what it should be. Wasn't even anything to do with the thing I thought it was. To do with the center point. Alright, let's test it again. Oh, I've just fucked it up already. No, that should be fine. Right, let's try applying that same code here. See what results we can get, eh? Actually, I can't even remember if I'm using the right key to decrease the right axis. Let me just double check. Might be looking at the wrong one. Yeah, it's control. Been looking at the wrong axis this entire time. Great. This is frustrating. So we still need to fix the offset issue. Is that actually recompiled? Sorry for the slow episode today. I know I've not already done a lot. Not quite awake. And I'm, like I say, I've limited my coffee intake as well, so can't rely on that anymore. Obviously not right. Would help if I was putting the right variables in. Until this issue's starting to wear me down. What I might do, to be honest, is might take a break and then come back to it. I think it's closer to the behaviour I want. Kind of. I'm just messing around at this point. There's not really much I can think of to do. What I find so strange is that center point's changing even when the size isn't. This is because of the offset, right? This might fix it. I think I forgot to put that in before. Maybe? Yeah, I mean, I think that's correct. I think the offsets are just wrong now. Still not quite sure why it's reducing down that amount, but Just a matter really of tweaking the numbers until it's right, but this is closer, not quite right, but nearly there. This is really frustrating. Right, I'm going to call the stream there. Sorry that this has been kind of a whole lot of nothing, but it's what it is. I will carry on with this on the next live stream, or off stream this evening if I get a sudden burst of inspiration and I'm like, I know exactly what's going on, but that's not likely. So, yeah, thank you for watching. I hope to see you next time. Hopefully it won't be as boring as it was today, but we'll see. So, yeah, thank you again, and see you later.